FIZZ is, it's actually FISS, but a recommendation was that FIZZ is kind of cooler, but these are S's, but we call it FIZZ. And FIZZ stands for Fighting Sugar in Soft Drinks. And all the work I'd done post-grad had been around kind of looking at metabolic issues and type 2 diabetes in particular. My mother was had type 2 diabetes, and so it was an issue that was close to my heart, and our families lived with it for many years, and it's what kind of brought me to looking at this, and it's kind of looking at kind of how we can prevent the upstream issues, and kind of being an epidemiologist and in the School of Population Health. Rather than looking at kind of individuals, we're looking at patterns of disease in populations and initiatives that target whole populations to reduce risk and prevent type 2 diabetes. And just got one question. For let's say a Māori or Māori Pacifica person or a New Zealand European, who is more likely to have type 2 diabetes or diabetes? Pardon? Yeah, absolutely. So Māori or Pacifica are about 2 or 3 times more likely to have type 2 diabetes in particular. Okay, and if I kind of asked a similar question, but it's slightly different, if there's a type 2 diabetic right here, are they more likely to be Māori or Pacifica or New Zealand European other? Pardon? Yeah, so that's what you would think, but that's not the case. Okay, so if we look at the diabetic population of New Zealand and we turn them into 10 people, about 60% or 6 are New Zealand European. About 3 of them, 1.5 are Māori, 1.5 are Pacifica, and about 1 are Asian. Okay, and I've been grappling with this because I think sometimes the lack of motivation to bring in population measures around whether it be taxing sugary drinks or doing this or doing that is because maybe policymakers, they don't realize this, because actually type 2 diabetes is an issue for our whole country. But I think a lot of the time, Māori and Pacifica, we are 2 or 3 times more likely to get type 2 diabetes. But actually, you could say that New Zealand European are in the diabetic population 2 times more likely to be members of that population in number. So I just want to kind of carry that through my presentation.
Can I just ask, are they New Zealand European more likely to get it later?
So onset, I think it was a 10-year difference between Māori and Pacifica. So onset is later, and then issues around access to care and all that type of stuff is worse. And so the actual disease experience is far worse for Māori and Pacifica, you know. And so we created FIZZ back in, I think it was around 2012-13, and we kind of a group of academics, but also public health workers who came together to target one thing that we were hoping that we could get traction on, which is sugary drinks. And the reason why we targeted sugary drinks is because sugary drinks, they're known to be a risk factor for a number of issues, metabolic issues, unhealthy weight, gout, type 2 diabetes, dental caries as well. And we thought, and for children, they contribute about a quarter of the sugar to their diets, 26% from the last Child Nutrition Survey, 2008 and 9. And we thought that, sugary drinks are empty calories, they're not needed. It's easy and identifiable if we wanted to do public health initiatives against them. And so we thought we could get traction against it, and it's a low-hanging fruit. So that's kind of part of the rationale as to why we targeted sugary drinks. but sugar is a problem generally. And so some of the actions that we do is raising awareness, so to the harms of sugary drinks, and that's to prompt changes in knowledge, attitudes, and behaviour if we can. So, and so this is to the whole population, the whole public, researchers, academics, policymakers, government. We do advocate to government in particular for policies that will reduce sugary drink intake as well. And also too, we look at and hope to, we do carry out our own research, but also we try and translate research so it can be more meaningful to those who receive it. And so some of the key policies that we are our top 3 priorities. One is water-only schools. This has been talked about for a number of years. There was a consultation document by the previous government. We thought, oh, yay, something's going to happen. January 1st came and nothing happened. It's still the status quo. We would like to see front of pack labelling, but how many teaspoons of sugar on the pack rather than a nutrition label, or even the health star rating system is a little bit difficult to understand. And also too, we'd like a sugary drinks levy. We changed it to levy because tax is not a very nice word, and they called it, I think they called it a levy in the UK, but under the current climate, it's hard to think about a tax. But these are our 3 policy angles. So to raise awareness, we had our first symposium in 2014. We've had them in 15, 16, 17, or 18 is missing, but we did have one, 19, 20. Through COVID, we missed a few years, and we're having another one in 2024. But we've found these symposium great ways to get traction and share knowledge and create a movement. So we're hoping to get that back on the road again this year. And this has taken, we called it a summit in 2020. This was opposite Parliament, and these kids are from Glenview Primary School in Cannons Creek, Porirua. And they came and we presented a policy brief, or they presented a policy brief to Dr. Shane Reti, who was in opposition at that time, Julianne Genter, and a member from the top party. And so we've found these have been great ways to move the sugar dial. And a couple of times we've been lucky enough to get Jamie Oliver to do talks, because he was pivotal to bringing in the tax in the UK. And so he's done messages to open our symposium. This is Dr. Rob Beaglehold, who's the spokesperson for the New Zealand Dental Association. And he's a big supporter and member of FIZZ as well. So those are our symposiums. We've commissioned polls, or bought a question or 2 in a number of polls over the years. You can see when we first started out, those who supported a sugary drinks tax were about 44%, and it increased slowly. We got up to 2/3, 66%, but if you added those who were not bothered either way, it came to about 75%. Then unfortunately, around COVID times, it dropped. We've lost traction, so we've got more work to do. But the thing about polls, what I have heard is that if a poll gets up to around 75%, governments tend to act on them, because if they don't, they'll start to lose votes. And so the work with the public and community, if that's reflected in polls and they want to see action on sugar, whether it be water-only schools, then we hope then governments will listen. But we just got to keep working on that. We created New Zealand Beverage Guidance Panel, number of public health experts and academics, and we've done these policy briefs. One on water-only schools, this one's on a tax, and presented them. We've been to Parliament a couple of times. And this is one of the, and also we've engaged with the media as well. So this is a policy brief there on water-only schools. We thought that helped turn the dial to get the consultation and all that, but unfortunately nothing eventuated. But media were there and they'd done a great interview with the Glenview kids, and it just gets more traction, more awareness, public awareness, and helps generate change. Sorry? Okay, yeah. And these are other media things. So whenever we do things, we usually try and engage with media. And then publications. Through our research, we've published a number of papers and editorials on the issue. One of the key studies that we've done is action research with schools, trying to educating kids in how to work out sugar intake and how much sugar is allowed, recommended daily allowances, things like that. And so these are some of the slides I want to take you through quickly. What we show the kids in the 1800s, it's hard to find sugar. Nowadays, wherever you go, if I pushed you around there, you'd fall into a pile of sugar. It's everywhere. 1700, for the equivalent to buy one packet of sugar, you could have bought 14 kilos of cheese. Now, cheese has gone up. I think you couldn't even buy a fifth of a block of cheese. Okay, so sugar is so cheap now. Same with eggs. Only wealthy people could afford sugar. Same, 1 kilo of sugar, you could buy 34 dozen of eggs in 1700. Now you'll struggle to get half a dozen with $2. This shows in 1700, the average person would have 2 kilos of sugar per year in the UK. Over time, in 2000, it's about 70 kilos in the year 2004 US person. In New Zealand was about 54 kilos. So the average Kiwi is having about 54 kilos of sugar per year compared to back in 1700 was 2. What's followed that increased consumption of sugar has been unhealthy weight. It's kind of spiked around the same time, and also type 2 diabetes. And we think that the key driver to type 2 diabetes in particular is high sugar and high carb intake. And the patterns follow each other. So here's all three together. This again just shows the consumption over that time. How many teaspoons of sugar do you think New Zealand average Kiwi kids having a day? Any ideas? Pardon?
You said something terrible. It's not going to
Yeah.
About 6 or so.
It's about 30, okay? And about a quarter of those are from sugary drinks. So we think if you knock out sugary drinks, you're going to take out a big ticket item. The American Diabetes Association recommend maximum intake of sugar for a child is 3, a woman is 6, and a man is 9. 369, we call that the 369 rule. This is one of the modules for the kids. And then we teach them how you can calculate teaspoons of sugar. In a 1.5, there's about 48 teaspoons. A good friend of mine was in a band. He'd have 2 1.5s a day traveling around New Zealand and touring. So that's nearly 100 teaspoons a day. The average 600 ml is 18 teaspoons. But to convert to teaspoons, you need to know 4 grams is a teaspoon. We teach the kids how to read labels. And then also sugars everywhere else too. 10% of a cigarette is sugar. A lot of cereals are 26%. Quarter of that box is sugar. So sugar's everywhere, but again, sugary drinks are the big ticket items. We teach them healthy alternatives. And also milk, unflavoured milk and water is the number one options, but zero sugar options are far better than the full sugar versions. When we work with the kids, we try and do contemporary things that our kids, Māori Pacific kids, would like. We've done a FIZZ hop. We have cool gifts and T-shirts to reciprocate what we're giving them and make it an enjoyable experience. And from that study, we had a curriculum that we used, but it was kind of developed by me. And for this paper, I've joined with the Liggins Institute, Lens Science Group, who are educationalists, and we've done a study to create proper curriculum, and it's up on our website. Teachers can access this to use it for New Zealand curriculum, and we're hoping to do a study to provide evidence that it's working. So in terms of solutions, we think, education has to keep going on. advocacy and policy, but what we've found is even though we can educate our kids a lot in schools intensively for a couple of years, their knowledge and awareness and attitudes change. But when they step out of that school, they're overwhelmed by the environment. We need environmental change to back up the education and everything else. And the only way we can get environmental change, remember that there was a slide, 96% of our Pacifica community are overweight. You can't run a program with a subset of people. It's a whole population, and it's not just our Māori Pacific population, it's the whole of New Zealand. We need these policies. So we keep going on this, and we're trying to target this one because it's the lowest hanging fruit. I think we're nearly there. Who can argue against it? So a number of schools already do it, but I think it needs to be regulation so that all schools do it. And we created this no sugary drinks logo as well as some of the work. So yeah, I think continued advocacy, education, and political pressure, and and we found in one of our polls for the age group 30 to 40, 80% of them supported a sugary drinks tax, and they're the largest consumers. So we're hoping that if we can get back up there, it will be reason for the government to implement some of these policies. Yeah, so in our education, we say that juice is the same as a Coke pretty much in terms of the sugar content. And I've got nieces and nephews, my cousins have given them juice instead of anything else, and their kids, that the teeth are gone. And I was like, mate, but they thought moving from that to juice, yeah. And my wife is a oral health therapist, and she sees that. So yeah, juice is the same. And you'd never eat 10 oranges, but you can have the juice from that and the sugar from that quite easily. So yeah, I think that's kind of like one of those myths that needs to be communicated more clearly to our communities, but everyone too, I think.
Yeah, I like to fight towards policy and national stuff, because you can give these tamariki all the knowledge in the world, but to walk out into that world.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad that, we've heard that made sugar was okay, in fact was the evil, but it wasn't. It was mostly sugar, and the fact that companies that make things that just check with sugar and everything. I think
that's right.
Look at that as well.
Yeah, well, I think 80 to 90% of supermarket products have added sugar. So you can't get away from it. It's so hard. Lastly, yeah, we're having a symposium in November 22nd. And if you're around, you'd be most welcome to attend. So yeah, thank you